Hi, everyone. It's Michele Payn. Welcome to this series during National Egg Week. I'm delighted to have you join us. And Kathryn Martinez is joining us today to talk about nutrition as a stress management tool. I am so excited, Kathryn, because I think this is a topic that not a lot of people really appreciate. So welcome all the way down in Texas.
Thank you.
Delighted to have you here. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I am a registered dietitian, and I help bring to life with my clients the joy of food and help them to continue to have their treats, what they consider treats, and to also work towards improving their nutritional health, because nutrition really is the foundation in how we feel physically, emotionally, and just connected socially. So
it is, yes. And I've worked with a lot of dietitians over the years in my business, but you and I just met. Thank you, Neva, for the introduction. And I think it's a really interesting angle to look at nutrition as part of mental health, nutrition as part of stress management. So to start off with, and welcome to everyone who has joined us. We do see you there, and we're happy that you are here. But to start off with, Kathryn, what would you say are 3 quick tips that you could offer to people on food as a stress management tool?
Sure. So people think food can be complicated, and it actually can be really simple when you look at it from a standpoint like comparing it to growing a garden or having a car and how you take care of your garden or your car. You need to first assess kind of what it is that would help your garden, your body, your car run optimally. And of course, the first thing is going to be fuel, what you put in, and quality is really important. And looking at how you nurture and what happens when you nurture, and then how you take care and what you get out of it. So for instance, in talking about a garden, what you put in, what kind of seed that you put in. So a seed and the nutrients that are important in the body is looking at variety, having all of the key nutrients, water, vitamins, minerals, carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. We need all of those. All of them are important. And so making sure that you're including meals that have that and looking for quick, easy ways of getting there. And I'll get to that in a little bit, but kind of assessing what would optimally be good for your garden, and then building plans that are going to help you be successful. Mm-hmm. So I don't want my clients to be in the kitchen cooking for hours on end. That's not really practical. We are a society that's fast. We want things that are quick. And there are a lot of great ideas. I mean, nature's first fast food, an apple. I mean, how much time does that take? And I say trying to pair nutrients. So take that apple and pair it with some peanut butter. Mm-hmm. So you're going to get some carbs, you're getting some protein, you're getting some fiber. So it doesn't have to be a big involved process. It's just looking for simple, quick ways of getting nutrients in. And then you also want to care and curate. So when you're caring and curating, you look at what is needed to keep pests out of your garden, what is needed to keep diseases away from the body, and what is needed to keep that car running optimally. Mm-hmm. So you need, for a car, you need oil. For your crops, you need water, you need fertilizer, you might need to assess what is happening and if there's any bugs or anything you need to take care of. Your body's the same way. And we have little bugs in our body too. We have bacteria, that's good bacteria, and we have bacteria that's not as good. And what we put in our body will help fuel that bacteria, and it'll help fuel and make our body run optimally. And then if we were going with A, kind of what you assess, B, kind of building the base, C, taking care, D, diversity. And that's where I think a lot of people run into a challenge of getting stuck in the rut, kind of eating the same things all the time. And diversity, the more diverse our food is, the more nutrients that we get. Okay. Because there is no one food, there's no one diet, there's no one approach, there's no one, as we know, there's no one particular magic bullet. It's looking at diversity and how we can get more diverse with the things that we consume.
So are you telling me I can't eat chocolate all the time?
I'm telling you, actually, you can eat chocolate all the time. There is always room for ice cream and chocolate.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. Yeah. However, if that's all you ate all the time, you wouldn't feel very good.
This is
And
true.
your body wouldn't run very optimally. And so that's why I teach how to be in tune with how food makes you feel. Because when we are mindful of how we feel, and that is a physical, that is an emotional, then we will realize, gee, if I eat chocolate all the time, I don't feel so good. It's kind of like going to the fair, right? When fair, we have all those yummy foods, right? And in Texas, everything's big and everything's fried. And you go and you have a day like that. Well, the next day, you invariably are like, I just want a salad. Your body kind of knows it can enjoy, and your body trusts when you can go, when you're really aware and kind of nurturing and feeding into all foods.
Just so you know, and I think it was Food Tours from Farm to Table. It's in one or two of my books. I write about my daughter and I and our family eat quite healthily. She's a runner, so she has to. I have to so that I feel decent and that I'm a nice person. But during the fair season, elephant ear is considered a regular necessity. Now, mind you, we're also probably burning 3,000 calories a day because we're showing cattle and lifting bales and whatnot. So I can appreciate the fair comments. But yeah, I think it's really interesting for all of our listeners and viewers out there. By the way, if you have questions for Kathryn, please feel free to post them. We spend a lot of time in agriculture talking about care of our fields, care of our soils, we care for our animals. Our cattle, in particular, dairy cattle, are like Olympic athletes, and we spend thousands of dollars feeding them right and analyzing the nutrition that they need and looking at their diets. And likewise, in the field, we diagnose problems. We plan what we're going to have in the field, and we make sure that our crops are taken care of. But when it comes to ourselves, we kind of stink at it, to be honest. No offense to anyone who's listening. I'm sure there's some great eaters out there. So how would you say that we in agriculture in particular, but anybody, can make smarter food choices, choices to be able to fuel their brain and to be able to help them make better business decisions, particularly in stressful times?
Well, the biggest thing is planning ahead. What I find is that a lot of times it's dinner time. It's time to eat. What are we going to eat? Well, then it depends on what's there and maybe what's been taken out of the freezer. So if you have a great meal and it's not been taken out far enough in advance, it's a challenge. So making a plan, finding a day that's better for you. For a lot of people, that might be a weekend day where they can go in and just look at, okay, what's the week look like? For you, it might be we've got track meets on these days. We've got, maybe we have a vet coming and doing something this day. So looking at what is happening during the week and what would be realistic. Some quick, easy planning things. Crock pots. Crock pots are great where you can put something in and let it cook all day, and then basically it's ready for you in the evening time. Batch cook. So when you're making things, if you're making like tacos, meatloaf, there are several dishes that you can make a little bit more and then stick it into portion sizes. So however many are in your family, or maybe it's just individual portion sizes, and put it in the freezer. So that way it's just a de-thaw and it's ready. So the planning avenue is really key. There are resources, there are companies that you can order. So sometimes it's ordering food to have that variety. I like to have clients have a standby list of when I'm not thinking, because when we're hungry and we're starting to think about food, we're not thinking rationally. Food really fuels our muscles and it fuels our mind. Glucose is the primary fuel for our brain. So if we don't have enough on board, we're not thinking rationally and we don't have the energy to make something. So doing that in advance and having that plan where it's quick and it's easy is fine. And it can even be frozen foods are great. Something that you can just put out and have variety in that, because you can open up the refrigerator or the freezer and like, oh, I don't feel like that, right? So you always want to have several different options so you can quick and grab something. With that and having a plan, you want to think about trying to have the major food groups. So carbohydrates are really important. We talked about for fueling your brain, fueling your muscles. And if you don't have enough carbohydrates on board, what happens? Like say some people have gone by some of these plans that like restrict carbohydrates. Well, by the evening time, you're so hungry and you haven't had carbohydrates. Your body's like, I want carbohydrates. And at that spot, you're not really thinking, okay, let's make some whole grain rice and cook something up. You're like, I want something fast. And so that's where people don't feel as comfortable, because they're grabbing something that's really fast. And that's often not something that they would consider more of a nutrient rich kind of balanced meal. So plan to get the carbohydrates. Protein is really, really important. Breaks down into amino acids that are our building blocks that help with neurotransmitters. Dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine. These help us to feel better, and they actually help fuel our emotional state. So if we're not fueling our body with the right nutrients, then we're not getting our neurotransmitters that are kind of like our natural feel-good hormone, our natural Prozac per se. And then along with protein and carbohydrates, we want fats. Omega-3 fats are really, really important and have shown a connection with emotional stability and have been really, really key in helping us to maximize and feel better and kind of help reduce our risk for heart disease. So you have your major food groups, and then think about color. So the more color, if your diet consists of meat and potatoes all the time, I'm more like, and I love potatoes. How can you add color? My biggest way to add color to that diet and to that plan is ketchup. Okay, and I'm a big ketchup. you could also, though, I like to look at what can you add. So how about add some onions and bell peppers to the potatoes, right? So instead of looking at what do we take out, what can we add? There are a lot of pre-made mixes, salad mixes. So if your diet consumes of mostly yellow, orange foods, then look for ways of getting more green in and looking for purple. So it doesn't have to be every single day, but if you are looking at a plate that is primarily the same colors, you're missing a lot of the polyphenols, antioxidants that are kind of like nature's Clorox. They go in and they clean the brain and they clean the intestines and they get all the bad stuff out. And so we want to fuel our body with those to keep it running maximally.
Okay, so give us some examples of food that have all the polyphenols. Is that what you call them? Did I get it right?
Yeah. So fruits and vegetables, basically color. Okay. And these are nutrients. There's also phytochemicals. These are nutrients that are in food and is the reason why you can't just take a vitamin, because vitamins can be something that can enrich, but basically our body is meant to run by optimally having foods that have all these nutrients in them. So the more color, then the more antioxidants, polyphenols. Fruits and vegetables are going to be your biggest sources of those. You also want to look at like probiotics, things that help fuel your gut, because in your intestines, you have a lot of microbiotics, microbiome, bacteria that basically make vitamins. They make neurotransmitters, and they can help the brain and the muscle. What feeds bacteria is fermented foods. So, and what feeds the good bacteria, we also want to feed the good bacteria, and that's with using prebiotics, and that comes from a lot of the polyphenols from your fruits and your vegetables. So it's the same thing, whether it's your animals or your crops, you want to put the good things in. And it doesn't take long. So a lot of people will say, well, but I'm just a meat and potatoes guy, And so what we are starting to see with some research is that it doesn't take long of putting in foods to start changing your bacteria and what your bacteria like and crave. So nourishing the body. And one thing that you can also keep in mind is that it takes a while to acquire a taste. So part of that may be it takes a while for your bacteria to wake up and realize, oh yeah, here's these great foods that you're feeding me. That's what I need to run optimally. Or you may have had that experience of growing up, sitting at the table, and your mom didn't make you get up, wouldn't let you get up until you ate all your peas. And so your experience with peas may be canned peas and the negative association of, okay, when I'm growing up, I'm not ever going to eat peas. I'm not, because, I won't have to. But if that was your only experience with peas and you didn't give it another chance. You didn't try the peas a different way, or frozen peas or fresh peas, and really realize how you feel instead of it just being an argument about I will or I won't eat. So I guess big kind of picture and thinking about that is your taste buds will change. Giving your body the nutrients that it needs, you'll start to feel better. And it doesn't take very much time. So looking at adding, what can you add? What kind of color? Think about the rainbow and give the body time, because you will feel so much better. You'll think clearer. You'll be happier. You'll be more pleasant to be around.
So science is pretty clear that food does matter in our ability to manage stress, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is the building block. So if you're not getting the nutrients, you have a challenge with producing your natural neurotransmitters, your hormones, and your ability to think clearly. I mean, nobody, when we're hungry, think about kind of, we're not very pleasant to be around. And it's not just a simple hunger. There are a lot of micronutrients, vitamins and minerals that we're missing if we're not having a diverse diet. So back to that, what can you add in? That's where adding more color, adding more variety will help give more variety in your intestines. And that's going to help decrease your risk for and help increase kind of your fighting army to fight invaders such as viruses and clear out all the toxins and all the bad stuff out of your body.
So I can add blueberries and strawberries to my ice cream, and that would fix everything, right?
Yeah, it's going to add more color. So absolutely. Now, remember, if you're having that all the time, you're going to be like, does it feel right? And you could have it every day, would be fine. It is looking at individualizing. So just as you talked about having somebody come out and analyze the soul, analyze the animals, it's the same thing of having a specialist. For a car, what do you go to? You have a mechanic, right? For the body, you have a doctor. The doctor works on kind of the overall and specific conditions. A dietitian is somebody whose expert is what goes in the body and what goes out the body. So if you're having problems with constipation, with mood, invariably, a lot of the psychiatrists and a lot of the therapists I work with have their clients do a nutrition checkup to kind of see. And I can't tell you, there's not anyone. I mean, I could use a dietitian, right? I mean, we all could improve. We know we need to eat better, right? But other things get in the way. And that's where a dietitian has the expertise that can go in and kind of help. And you can also, it's looking at what is needed, where am I missing it, and what are some practical strategies to get me there. So planning, big one. Diversity, big one. Trying new foods, because we get stuck in a rut. And so there are a lot of plans out there that give you ideas. There are meal plans. There are, there's all kinds of pictures of foods that you can go by. But one thing that my clients find is that having ideas sent to them of easy, practical things that can be done, recipes to try, because somebody who's tried a recipe, and that's where you ask kind of around, like, hey, I'm looking for new things. I just recently tried I joined with a group of dietitians, and we have some meal plans and some recipe ideas. So I've been trying it myself and increasing the diversity in my diet. And they have been great. Rosemary Carrots. Oh my gosh, think about color. It's got rosemary, fresh from the garden. You have your carrots in. It has some fresh cheese on it, so you're getting your dairy. It also has, why can't I think of it? It's got pistachios on it, so you're getting
interesting.
nuts. And I can't think of the green. Oh, pomegranate. Think about the color in that. It adds a little bit of green from the pistachios. You've got the dairy, you have the orange, you have the purple, lots of color, lots of nutrients in it.
Interesting. So before we get too far into our time here, I do want to know if you have any questions for an RDN, this is your chance to ask them, or any questions around how nutrition is associated with mental health. We have an expert here. Kathryn has an extensive history working with psychiatrists and psychologists in mental health institutions. So it's really intriguing to learn about some of this, but I know one of the greatest areas of excitement in nutrition right now, in human nutrition, I should say, is around the whole microbiome. And for those of you that have cattle or work with ruminants, you know what I'm talking about. We're talking about bugs and gut health and keeping everything happy. We spend a lot of time doing that, particularly in the dairy business. When you look at microbiomes and the opportunity to help people handle stress, what would your top recommendation be?
To eat yogurt.
Grow yogurt.
Yay!
We like dairy
yogurt,
products.
Yes. Yogurt, fermented foods, fiber, eating the nutrients that help feed the bugs. What do the bugs like? The bugs like to have fiber because that's their fuel. So having more nutrient rich. And one of my favorite recipes now is a Chia Oatmeal.
Mm-hmm.
It's got whole grains. It has chia seeds. It's got yogurt in it. So there's a lot of different things that feed kind of that nutrient. And that's where the diversity is very important, because we want a diverse gut. We don't want any particular, dominant. It is all about the balance. And so having that balance with food, having that balance with nourishing the nutrients. And that brings into how we think about food, because talking about stress and food and mental health, I hear people all the time villainizing foods or say, oh, I shouldn't have eaten that, or I was bad because I ate that. Hey, there are no good foods. There are no bad foods, period. You can't always have room for ice cream and chocolate. It's about the balance, though. So since we know that we don't feel well when we're imbalanced, or sometimes what happens is we get stuck in our rut. And then when we try something different and do what we know that's going to help us to feel better, then we feel so much better. We're like, oh, I didn't realize I felt so bad. And so being careful with how you judge or talk about food. There's no reason to ever say that was a good carb or a bad carb, or good food or bad food. Food is food. And food is meant for fuel. Food is also social, for pleasure. And so don't call food bad. It's all about balance.
Yep. So I always say food is about celebration, not condemnation.
I love that.
Clearly, in the agriculture business, there's a lot of condemnation when it comes to what we do. So it has been very interesting learning from you. If people want to get a hold of you, if they have questions, if they want to connect with you online, how can they do so?
Sure. There's a couple of different ways. I have a website that's in process of being redone. So look for a new website, but it's still the same address, Confidence in Eating. So that's like confidence. We have confidence in eating, EATING. So you can find me there. I also am on Facebook, Dietitian Advice for Real Life. Those are kind of the easiest ways that you can find me.
Awesome.
And yes, absolutely. Nutrition and how you feel is really, really key. And it shouldn't be stressful. So you don't have to stress over what you're eating. It doesn't have to be spending a bunch of time in the kitchen. It's looking for little, small, practical ways of what you can add in. Think about your rainbow, think about your rain, and think about your bugs. And you want them diverse.
Very good. Well, Kathryn is also contributing. I'm excited to announce to Agriculture's Growth Calendar that will have all sorts of resources like what she shared here today. So you can find her in the calendar as well. And I just want to encourage all of our viewers to remember that even when it's planting season and calving season and the cows need to be milked and it's harvesting season and you have no time, your self-care really matters, and nutrition is such a critical overlooked part of that. So hopefully this has given you a bit of help today. And Kathryn, I just want to say thank you for taking the time and sharing with us. So we will catch everybody. I'll be back with 2 more Facebook Lives on stress management on Thursday and Friday. So look forward to seeing you all then. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks.